some villages 100% enrolled in education was amazing, actually, like not to come to know after 5 to 6 years of work. We wanted to take this to next level in a digital form, so that now if we are at 100 village, we are really thinking how we can take this to 1,000 villages.
So today we have with us Mr. Remiz Muhammed, who is the CEO of BizTrust Technology Solutions and General Secretary at Rehab India Foundation. Mr. Remiz is a serial entrepreneur and an expert on nonprofit, having grassroots experience in building resilience and scaling large nonprofit charity organizations. He has a passion to develop partnerships in the nonprofit and technology space to drive high-impact, low-cost community development. Mr. Remiz has served in the senior management handling cross-functional initiatives within technology and operations for large corporates in the United States, the Middle East, and India. His experience spans across various technological solutions, focusing on future-proofing business operations through digital transformation. He is holding master's degree in pharmacy and an EMBA from IIM. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Remiz. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
And to begin with the conversation, so can you walk us through the journey of establishment of Rehab India Foundation and what all has it been focusing on till then?
Excellent. I think Rehab India Foundation started in the year 2008. Like any other non-profit, the purpose was to relocate some of the people in Assam who are hit by some of the communal riots, and they were probably displaced. So what we try to do to give some shelter and food rations and stuff like that. That's how we started. Like any other NGO, we wanted to give some help to the needy. But what happened was, when we started doing this, we found that I think there is a large majority of people who really require this kind of support. Then eventually during 2000, after 2 to 3 years, we thought that there should be some sustainable development. That's what we should focus. So we realigned some of our thematic areas and started focusing on village development program called VDP. It's our flagship program, which is adoption of a total village and giving them a roadmap for the strategic transformation, for their capacity building, and also started taking their own initiative, touching on the area of education, health, and economic development. So we focused, I think, on education, primary education, and we are successful now. Our whole objective was to start remedial tuition program and also strengthen the government ecosystem. That what I meant by that is probably taking all the students back to the schools, which is set up by the government. And most of the places we thought that there is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan program, there is a school, but probably it is not active the way it is supposed to be. So once the remedial tuition program happens in that village, we take the students and enroll them into the schools, government schools, so that the government school started acting now, because there are obviously students coming with good knowledge level through the remedial tuition program run by Rehab India Foundation. And I think now we have more than 10,000 students coming up actually, and we have in the last 10 years we were able to send, I think, few hundred students to colleges now. Actually, I think that is the testimonial that this system in the education level is working. At the same time, we also wanted to give healthcare support with minimal cost. So we tried to focus some mobile medical vans, so that we put some doctor, pharmacists. The mobile medical van can hop from one village to another, which is Rehab adopted. At the same time, at the same way how we try to strengthen the government schools, we also started acting with PHCs in that block. so that the PHEs can help us to build the good healthcare system in that area. Obviously, the villages what we adopted are very remote, and because of the mindset, people don't even allow ASHA worker to come in. Actually, once we adopt the village, so strategically it comes under our control. So we give them the education and the importance of having the government ecosystem to come on board with the village. So we were successful in making that also in the villages. So many of the village people now started going to PHC. They started inviting ASHA workers. So it's a win-win situation for all the parties. So as I told in the beginning, we thought that we should do everything, but I think now we thought we should act as a catalyst and do the investment on their development, like salary of the tuition teachers, rather than giving them a fees directly to send their kids to school. So we invest directly on the tuition teachers. We invest on the fees of the doctors, pharmacists, and the medicines. We also give some microfinance loan in the economic development sector and ensure that they have come up with their own feet to do some work like farming or some small businesses and stuff like that. But again, that area in the economic development, we started collaborating with the livelihood mission of the different state where we are working. One good example is Jiviga from Bihar. We are closely working with them, and we have so many self-help group now through Jiviga running the adopted villages of Rehab. In that way, it's a win-win situation, as I told. For the Jiviga, they have a target to develop some of the self-help group in some district. So wherever we are there, we invite them. We make the base for them to come very easily. The self-help group would have been already there, so they can start the account and start their meeting. They can also have the community mobilizer and stuff. So overall, the journey was exciting last 10 years. So each day is a learning curve for us. I think we started collaborating with the expert. Now, I think due to COVID, we also started thinking of taking entire thing digitally there. So we have an MOU with Pradham. I think that's a good thing on teachers training program and empowering the education program. So we use their content, and through the training, now we are digitally doing some of the education program within our villages. And from education, we also now going into telemedicine. We have already collaborated with one of the leading private company, on getting the medical equipment there, so that now we will do a cloud-based telemedicine system, and it is now in pilot. We also started talking to some of the leaders in the farming, like Dihat and Cropin, to see how probably they can help us connect and build a marketplace for them directly. So we are started talking to that. So entirely now, I think our aim is the next 5 to 10 years, we have to take this entire VDP program into next level digitally. That's where we are now. Actually, now we have approximately 85 villages adopted with almost 100,000 beneficiaries touched on a day-to-day basis.
Great, wonderful. And just like you said, that you started with something of, providing livelihood, and then picked up sustainability in terms of the living standards and providing, sustained living and working and healthier conditions for students and children, people in the communities itself. And it's also amazing to hear that you're already partnering with a lot of similar organizations to provide expertise the way in the areas that you do not have. And coming forward to the next question, which I have, is about the reach of the communities. Like you mentioned that you adopt a village and then you start looking at the aspects that are missing and then working on them with the partner organization. So how has the reach of the organization been in terms of, is it still focusing on certain geographies, or is it planning to expand? And how do you do that? How do you expand yourself? And if you could also shed some light on the Rehab cluster program that you have.
Excellent. I think, as I told in the beginning, our experience was very minimal actually. So what we did was we started villages in different states, adopted one village in Bihar, adopted one in UP, some in Andhra South, some in Tamil Nadu. The way we were trying to build this was where we found we have some volunteer base and we may have some contacts. So we started village development program in that way. I think it was in 2013 or 14. I don't remember the year exactly, when we interacted with Tata Dan Academy, actually, some of the expert from that area, and we went for a I think 4 to 5 days training. Our mission was very clear, mission and vision was very clear, but we were trying to see how we can do that. So with that expert advice, we started moving into a cluster program. Actually, what cluster program of Rehab is, I think we adopt villages in the same block, in a district, in the block, same block, we will adopt village neighboring places very, very close to each other. And when it reaches 8 to 10, we call it is a cluster actually. The advantage with that one is shared resources. From the cost perspective for Rehab, I think it's a one program head, then different field officers and project managers can drive the entire cluster together. Second was, I think, demand generation with the government. I think that's what we enjoyed with the cluster program. For example, if one village go and talk to the PHC on their need, I think it is entirely different if 10 villages together go to the same PHC and talk about their demand. So it started working in that way actually. So the cluster program, we are now very clear actually. If we wanted to start in a new area, we will do the complete feasibility study, keeping in that mind that there is an opportunity for a cluster program actually. So that's the way we work now. Now we are primarily, I think, span into Bihar. Bihar is the maximum villages. We have 50 plus villages in Bihar. That is more than 5 clusters. Then earlier where we started in a non-cluster way, like Assam, Murshidabad, West Bengal, and in Andhra, all these things now are still moving because, as I mentioned, ours is a transformation roadmap for minimum 5 years to 8 years. So whatever we started, we did not want to drop the ball. So we are continuing with that, but we started focusing on Bihar. Now we started talking to minded NGOs, and we started giving some consultation so that if they wanted to start, we will support, but different geo, primarily wherever they are and their like this actually. So we are moving in that way. Now we have not decided where to go, and because COVID obviously started making us think what has to be the plan for next few years. But so far so good. I think we are designing our new strategy for 2012 now. Sorry, 2022 now.
Okay. Yeah. And like you talked about in the first answer, that livelihood was the main focus that you kind of focused at, and then it kind of narrowed down into different verticals, which were education, healthcare, or even basic necessities of the communities. So education per se as a domain has become kind of really, I would say, disrupted because of Corona. And a lot of organizations are struggling to provide it to the last mile or even the masses of the children that are there. So how is it that Rehab India Foundation is tackling that issue of providing the access to education? And same goes for healthcare. Like you mentioned that telemedicine is right now what you're focusing on, which is actually the need of the hour. So what other domains are you focusing on, and how are you kind of coping up with the situation of Corona?
Yeah, I think the situation of Corona, before even Corona, for I think some reason in 2000, last year itself, we started doing some digital education actually. That's why we started talking to Pradham, and Pradham were very extremely helpful on signing an MOU with us, and they helped us to do some of the training on the education in the right way concept. So in that, all our tuition teachers, field officers got trained, and it was an ongoing training. At the same time, the content was also given by Pradham, especially meeting to the requirement of Bihar. So during that time, Pradham also told us that they have some mobile application so that we can deliver the content digitally to the villages. But the challenge was, as usual, when we took a survey, how many families have the gadget to deliver this content. Unfortunately, we had 25 to 30%. Then I think, keeping the social distancing norms, we told, okay, let us bring people and keep social distancing aspect and try to deliver that through a larger screen. That's what we did in many places, and it is continuing now. At the same time, we are also talking to some of the private content delivery partners now to build something specific for Bihar area, so that it is meeting the state education requirement. So we have already started talking to them, and we also have a platform to build classrooms now, actually, through another partner. So we are trying to connect all these things together, because everything is there everywhere. I think those people need a grassroots organization like us. We need the solution providers like them. So I think it is happening in a nice way, and I think you are also helping us to connect partners very well. I think CSR Box is doing an excellent job. I think through that only we were able to connect many people now.
And moving ahead, so during all these 10 years that you mentioned that the organization has been functional, so has there been any instances in particular, be it on the professional front in the corporates or the partners that you had, or the communities that you're working with, which kind of strengthened the resolve of the organization to keep working in the same domain?
I think the whole thing is the changes what we see on the ground. That's what I think. As I told, we wanted to do something. There was no proper design of the program when we started. Like any other NGO, we also thought let us start with some freebie distribution and stuff like that. But eventually, then we took a very serious decision, saying that no more freebies now. I think we should focus on sustainable development, so that we can build super duper capacity within the people, because they are like us. They are better than us, actually. So that let us focus on that. I think the testimonials were some villages 100% enrolled in education was amazing, actually, to come to know after 5 to 6 years of work. So that itself gave us the motivation, the confidence to go and talk these kind of approaches to other NGOs and other government officials and stuff. So overall, I think it's almost 10 years, but we feel that now this has to be the model. It's slightly difficult. It is not simple, because it's a holistic development. It's not only education, it's not only health. So we are talking about everything. Even experts suggested that it's a long process. As I said, every day there is a learning. Something which is not working, I think we are making it workable, maybe through so many techniques. Now, for instance, one example, I'll tell you how we have transferred. We were trying to transform someone, but we are also getting transformed. One simple example I'll tell. In COVID time, we thought that it's very important for us to give some awareness program through webinars or stuff like that to our community, because the community people are affected because of the migrant laborers and so many other geopolitical aspects that the community has affected. So in that way, I think giving them the boosting and the confidence was very important. So we started. So there are expert doctors and the psychologists. So many people are sitting in different parts, but they want somebody to talk. So we were able to connect with that very easily with them. And we have done, I think, minimum 15 to 20 large webinar programs for them. And some of the, I think, for example, one example, like, there was a session on menstrual hygiene conducted by an expert in that area to all the villages of Rehab. Suddenly, by seeing that, another, I don't say NGO, another group came and approached us and told that, hey, we are expert in making cloth pads, actually, reusable cloth pads. Why don't you conduct this training program with them? We conducted training program, and we asked our self-help group women who know tailoring to start stitching this cloth pad. When we posted that in Facebook and Insta, I think some social medias, there is another organization now approached us where can we commercially produce that and give. So today evening we are talking about that, actually. So it's like connecting all the touch point together. And I think if we have a good intention, I think there is a way to succeed.
Great. And coming to the end of the conversation, so what is the future, or I would say the vision for Rehab India Foundation going forward? Since like we discussed before, that COVID has already disrupted a lot of organizations and the work that's being done on ground. And you also mentioned that livelihood is something that you began with, and you're also focusing on other areas. And partnership is also something that you're focusing on currently, like every day you're forging new partnerships. So what is in future for Rehab India Foundation?
I think we are now strategically designing some program to disrupt some of the areas, to be honest. Actually, I think the technology and the expertise will take us there. I am very, very confident. So I think we are just trying to see this, how we can scale our work with minimal effort now. At the same time, the effectiveness and the result, what we intend to gain end of this entire program. Keeping that in mind, I think we are now strongly working on technology partners. I think that is the first step now. The technology partners are important. That's why I told, like digital classrooms, we are already talking to some people. Some we have built internally through voluntary section. For example, entire survey mobile application was built by us, our team, actually. So this is what we are planning to do. We wanted to take this to next level in a digital form, so that now if we are at 100 village, we are really thinking how we can take this to 1,000 villages through a lot of networks. It is not that, I think as an organization, we believe that somebody has to do this, actually. Anybody can do this. So we have to now strengthen others by giving a proper consulting and experience and best practice sharing, so that other NGOs also can start following the same model. It is not that, we are very clear, it is not that Rehab only have to do everything. I think we should act as a consulting partner now, at the same time, building foolproof testimonials, so that it can be used by multiple NGOs, and it can be used for CSR project and stuff like that.
That's a really actually great thought, that taking your expertise and your experience to other organizations, help them and kind of learn from them and grow their organizations itself. And on that note, I think we'll close the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Remiz. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.